You know, we've been talking about these candidates who are backed by Trump because of the position that they took about redistricting. And, you know, we were talking here amongst the panelists and they said, you keep saying 7, but actually just kind of at the end, it became 8. So tell us a little bit about that. 8.
Well, they expanded it and included one more that they hadn't initially targeted with negative ads. Whether that means they think that they're going to win them all, I think they have to win them all, otherwise it's a defeat, frankly, with all the money they've spent on this. So it's hard to judge because, first of all, the numbers aren't coming in district by district as fast as you might want to see them, and the polls close later up north as well, so it makes a difference on how to figure it. But you've got to figure that if Trump has the same cachet in 2026 that he had in 2024, he ought to be able to sweep all of those races. And if he doesn't, it shows that his power is on the wane.
And that 8th candidate is Niemeyer?
Niemeyer. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So when we were looking at that and we saw DeVries 73%.
But you don't know how many are
total.
We
don't know what it is, so it's hard to say.
Could be his neighborhood.
Yeah, maybe more interesting would be the difference in the percentages for Andre Carson when he had multiple challengers versus Victoria Spartz right now when she had just one.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think it's pretty significant. He had 3 opponents, at least 2 of whom campaigned very hard and put out a lot of signs and worked the district. So it's not surprising that I think his margin's going to be somewhere in the mid-60s of the total vote he got, which is a pretty good showing considering the opponents that he had this time. Victoria Spartz, did you see much in Hamilton County for her opponent?
42%.
I know for her total, but did you see much of a presence of her campaign?
Signs and various other things.
Signs and things like that, you did?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I did not
and you didn't hear her name.
there.
You didn't hear her name in the press and all. So the fact that Victoria Spartz got less than 60% as an incumbent against a candidate who obviously wasn't as well known or didn't work as hard, that shows some vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Robert?
They're both incumbents. They both won. I mean, 50%, 55, 60. All you got to win is by 1. Andre Carson probably got lower than he thought he would. Maybe Representative Spartz got lower than she thought she would. But in the end, what does it say? It says that people are willing to challenge incumbents in this atmosphere, which I think is very interesting. It's not the easiest thing in the world to challenge a congressional incumbent. Those people, you know, a lot of politicians have what we call Irish Alzheimer's, which means you forget everything but your grudges. And they take that stuff to the grave. There's still people.
I resent that Irish Alzheimer's.
It was told to me by Kevin Murray, who's
I don't
Irish.
care. So am I.
At the Golden Ace. It's a perfect place. My point is that it's a courageous act to go against these incumbents because they'll remember that you made them work harder, spend more money, made them be on shows like this, talking to you, still have the same power. So, you know, as much as I would like to see more races like this, the kudos to some of these people who've challenged because it's tough to go against the establishment, however you define it.
Right, and Melissa, it's just right what you were saying. I mean, the incumbents have got the golden ticket when we're an incumbent here in this midterm.
Yeah, typically incumbents have a very strong advantage going into this. But I want to dwell on Victoria Spartz a little bit because everything in Indiana is about Hamilton County these days. So Victoria Spartz is in a very different district than Andre Carson. No matter who would win tonight among the primary challenges in the Democrat, I don't think anyone other than Democrat would win in the fall.
Correct.
For 7. But Victoria Spartz is interesting because she is representing a part of Indiana that's very lively politically. There's a lot of political change in Hamilton County, a lot of demographic change. We know when we were sitting here 2 years ago and 4 years ago that that's where all the interesting state house races were. And so if her race is competitive right now and she's running against J.D. Ford and there's a lot of energy, that's going to affect down ballot races in the fall. And I'm very interested to see what that will mean for Democrats and Republicans in November.
And the get out the vote effort from the Democrat candidate for Secretary of State, whoever that turns out to be.
Right, right. And I will say the presence of primary challenges is very interesting. It's a chance for candidates to get tested and to build up infrastructure. So yeah, I think it's generally a good thing if there are challenges, but especially interesting when that happens in Hamilton County.
Are you worried for Victoria?
I think she's going to have to work her tail off. I mean, like anybody else. Now, you know, J.D. Ford, I know him a little bit. I don't know him well. I have a positive opinion of him, so I couldn't speak to his strength or vulnerability in that race. But, you know, if the Democrats truly think they can win the Secretary of State's race and they raise enough money and they have enough enthusiasm, then that can only be good news for J.D. Ford. Will we have the same as Republicans in that district? You know, one of the things that I learned in politics very early is motive. What motivates people to get out and vote, leave their house, leave their work or whatever? And to me, it's going to be interesting. I think that Victoria is having an increasingly difficult time motivating her voters. The D's are not going to have that problem with J.D. Ford. But again, it's like Dan Burton. This is the year he's going to lose. They can't, not again. No more Dan Burton. He won every time. She's undefeated. She's undefeated for a reason.
But this is
Where is she vulnerable?
But this is the first time that there is no president, governor, or U.S. senator on the ballot. So Secretary of State has a huge impact in this race. And J.D. Ford will work extremely hard and raise the money. And that's something she's not done. I mean, she's an incumbent. That gives her an advantage, certainly. But is she going to walk that district? Is she going to do what needs to be done to win? I don't think so.
I keep getting told she's not going to win, and she keeps winning.
Well, I mean, she's coasted before because she's been on the ballot when Trump was on the ballot, too.
And when he's not been on the ballot.
Do you think it hurts
but
her
not
that
without the
she
Secretary of
said
State.
maybe that she wasn't going to run and then she did run?
You think
or
that
do you think that you think that resonates more, or the fact that there were times that she didn't go along with the party?
If it didn't hurt her against Goodrich, it's not going to hurt her. I mean, that was the time.
It certainly is not going to hurt her in the primary. Yeah. But there are other things that will hurt her in the general election besides that.
Where do you think she's weak?
I think she's weak because she identifies completely with Trump and with Putin, which I think is a liability for her among most Indiana voters, or at least in parts of that district. Yeah. And if J.D. can convince them that he is the spokesperson who's going to talk about what's really important to those voters and how to address the problems of housing shortages and sending your kids to college and having enough money for education, and she's been in and hasn't done it, I think that's a pretty compelling message.
Outside of Marion County and Lake County, when you look around, what is the county that the Democrats, would you say it's Hamilton County?
Oh, I think there's obviously, because not simply because it's exciting, but it's growing. Yeah. It's growing in a huge fashion. So yeah, I think it's definitely a factor, and I expect to have more wins up there.
And the demographics in Hamilton County are changing.
Yes, I think this is a really big part of the story here. It is becoming more racially diverse. You have a huge immigrant population there. This is a population that's quite unhappy with the aggressive immigration policies of the Trump administration. You have a lot of well-educated white suburban women who are also unhappy with very social policies advanced by the Trump administration. So I think Victoria Spartz's greatest liability is the fact that she is a Republican at this point.
And a Trump Republican.
A Trump Republican, thank you. What Democrats have in their favor is that people are mad and they're energized, and we're also seeing a lot of infrastructure built among Democrats in Hamilton County that will serve them well, and that they've been building intentionally over the past few years. So I think there's a lot to watch there.
And when we're talking about diversity in Hamilton County, it also it includes religion.
Yes, yes. There's a huge Muslim population in Hamilton County, especially Fishers, South Asian population, Arab American population. And so it means that the conversation about what America looks like is different now in Hamilton County, as it is across all of America. So I think this election tonight, in many ways, is an election about very local small issues. It's about things as local as, is there going to be a data center built in my backyard, or will there be leak wastewater dumped in the reservoir? These are things that people care about. But they're also caring about big picture questions like, can I afford to provide for my family? Will I feel safe in this country? Is this a place where I feel welcome and where my ability to practice my faith is affirmed? These are questions that are also sitting with people right now and weighing heavily on people's hearts and minds.
You know, it's interesting as we followed a lot, we brought up data centers, and it just reminds me, we just saw a pretty good activation for the Martindale-Brightwood area. I mean, people really coming out and voicing and protesting and working with the media and trying to say, not in my backyard. And they were not successful. And sometimes I wonder when it's like you do galvanize and you do energize and you think, I'm going to go out and I'm going to vote, or I'm going to speak out, or I'm going to do something, and then it doesn't go in your favor. Is there this disenfranchisement then that follows, or do they keep coming back?
But you can even lose on the question of whether there's a data center there and still win on certain things. I mean, is that going to drive up even higher the cost of our utilities, our water usage? All of those things can be addressed in a way that can have a compromise, because, you know, they don't create jobs, or they don't create many jobs, and the Republican administration has poured huge incentives into those operations, so that there's not going to be a tremendous benefit in many locations for having them there, because they're going to get an abatement of property taxes. They're not going to have to pay income taxes. I mean, if the need is there and they're going to come here anyway, why are we spending hundreds of millions of dollars in incentives? Let them come and then regulate what that means for our utility rates and regulate what that does to our water supply, and then take the benefit from the resources that'll come in here in the terms of money. You know, I mean, there are ways to win without actually shutting it down, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I work for Google, so there's my disclosure. But they're not the Martindale-Brightwood data center. I think Ron Gibson is a profile and courage for fighting for that data center. Data centers are obviously, you know, on the radar, in the crosshairs. There's still a lot to be discussed about them. I'm a fan, and I was a fan before I was paid to be a fan. But her point, both of their points, I think, is valid in the sense of you have access to more news than you've ever had. So you're reading things about international affairs and national affairs that you never read. You used to have a subscription to the New York Times, right, or the Washington Post. So voters are more informed. I don't know they're as motivated. Victoria's going to have to motivate them. She's always seen as vulnerable. She always wins. Hamilton County's always turning blue. It's deja vu all over again. It's still solidly Republican, not completely Republican, but if I was running as a Republican, Hamilton County's where I'd want to run. I don't have any problem with that. I just think all these predictions keep happening, but they don't come to fruition. So at a certain point, they either have to happen or come up with a new strategy.
Well, we do have some results that are just coming in now. NBC, a projection that Greg Walker will lose his seat to Michelle Davis. So what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, that's one that Trump won. I mean, I saw some of the ads for that, and they were vicious. They were really vicious. And the question then is, what happens in that district in the fall? You know, the way that he was attacked by a woman whose only qualification, as far as I could tell, was that Trump blessed her. You know, it may not be enough to motivate people to come out and vote for her in the fall.
Melissa?
I continue to wonder how important endorsements are. I think we've seen some races where the endorsement of Trump mattered and others where it didn't. Maybe what matters more is the infusion of money to create these ads that can be blistering in their attacks. I will have to say he took a principled stand against redistricting. I think Hoosiers recognize that. And it was also a controversial stance, clearly. So I'm curious to see how other people like him fare across the state.
Trump has got a lot of juice in this state, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won 7 or 8 of the 9. By him, I mean his people.
Who's the 9th?
You said there were 8.
7 to 8.
7 to 8.
Yeah.
I don't think he has to win them all. If he wins 7 out of 8, that's 87%. That's pretty good. My biggest worry as a Hoosier, I'm a gigantic, unrequited fan of Rod Bray. I want Rod Bray to stay as majority leader, just like I want Todd Houston, who's fabulous, to stay as Speaker of the House. So some of these seats, if they turn, it may not mean so much, but if they form a coalition to change leadership in the House and Senate, that will matter greatly.
Well, that's the goal. That's the goal.
I know,
They
that's
want
why I
Bray
brought it
out.
up. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will be a huge change,
And
for sure.
we'll put someone that's to the right of Attila the Hun in instead. not very encouraging for the state of Indiana.
I didn't know him. Did you?
Oh,
know
he's
him?
one of your caucus.
Is he? I didn't know it.
All right, we're going to leave it there for now. We have much more analysis and results coming up tonight in our live coverage here on WTHR Plus right after this.